Well, we've been discussing on this show Labor's proposed misinformation laws. There is one lawyer who has been studying the legislation closely, and he joins me now, partner at major law firm Thomson Geer, Justin Quill. Justin, you've written a terrific piece in The Australian about this. What do you find most concerning about the draft legislation?
Look, the concept of it, obviously, the fact that the government, sure, through ACMA, but ultimately the government deciding what we can and can't say on social media platforms, and therefore what we can and can't read on social media platforms. Beyond that, I think even if you accepted that was an appropriate thing, which I absolutely do not, and the public should not either, but even if you accepted it's just not going to work. It's not going to do what the government wanted to do, because those people who might be inclined to spread misinformation, or those that might be inclined to believe it, are not going to think that information is not true, because the government have secretly disappeared tweets and posts. They're going to be thinking the exact opposite. They're going to say, aha, this proves that I'm onto something, that what I'm saying is true, because the government don't want the public to hear about it.
Don't we have the opposite problem at the moment, where there's too much censorship? You've got the issue of social media giants saying something is misinformation when it might very well be true.
Absolutely. Sharri, I'm not just saying this because I'm on your program, but I think you're the perfect example of this. You were calling out for ages the fact that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was conducting
gain of function, research.
Exactly, without proper biosecurity mechanisms in place. People were laughing at you, and guess what? Turns out to be right. These documents that have been released recently demonstrate that you were right. Now, if this legislation had existed back then, maybe you couldn't have said that as easily. And it might be that you were able to say it in the Daily Telegraph, because that's not covered by this legislation, but you couldn't say it on Twitter. And just an example of what the government and the establishment think is false may not necessarily be false. And we should be allowing people to say what they want to say. And if things are false, they'll be called out, and truth will ultimately prevail. Free speech has got to be allowed to function.
Exactly. Justin Quill, thank you for taking up the fight on this. Appreciate your time tonight.